Hi everyone, I'm Danielle and you're watching Consciously Mom. There's something shifting in the world today. I wouldn't say it's obvious, but if you look between the moments of negativity, the reckless politics and the mindless acts of violence that we have going on in the world today, if you look really hard, you'll notice that people are yearning for better. They're yearning for more in their life. Yoga, this ancient practice, is becoming the exercise of choice. People of all ages are starting to meditate. And there's this idea of mindfulness attaching itself to everything. It may just be that the sort of never ending mindless pursuit that we call life, the one that has us constantly reaching for external success and, material possessions, is no longer cutting it. We know something isn't right, we can feel it. But the feeling is buried so deep within us that we can hardly make out what it is. And that's because it's in our programming. We're programmed to the pursuit. We're programmed to that mindless pursuit. Generation after generation, our well-intentioned parents and other caregivers are handing down their programming. They're teaching us to, feel what they feel and think what they think and, carry out our lives the same way they carried out their lives. And again, it's all well-intentioned, but the problem is that the programming and everything that's being passed down is based on these false beliefs. False beliefs that you're only good enough if you're pretty. You're only smart enough if you get good grades. And you're only successful enough if you have a big house and a fancy car. And, the false programming, all of these beliefs and the beliefs that surround those core things is what leads to a false sense of self. A lot of us are walking around with a completely false sense of self that's attached to, everything on the outside, how we look, how we dress, what we do for a living, and a false sense of self is dangerous because a false sense of self a lot of times manifests in conditions such as narcissism, depression, anxiety, fear, and those things lead to, bullying, suicide, mass violence, all the things that make this world a really scary place to be raising children nowadays. So, what do we have to do? How do we stop this cycle? How do we make the world a better place for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren? Parents, I've come to realize that it all starts with us. It starts with us as parents. We are raising the future of this world. We're raising the future generation. And so we have to do better. We have to do better. We have to become more conscious of ourselves and of the way we're raising our kids. And we've got to throw a pin in the spokes of this crazy cycle that we call life and start connecting with our authenticity so that we can raise children who are better connected to their own authenticity, so that they're not walking around with a false sense of self and that therefore dealing with certain conditions and behaviors that lead to a very unhealthy and unsafe society. So I mentioned being conscious parents. Conscious parenting. Conscious parenting is this concept that was made popular by the best-selling book, The Conscious Parent by Dr. Shefali Sawberry. And conscious parenting is sort of an approach to parenting, or an approach to life, really, whereby we adults, we parents, connect and rediscover our authenticity so that we are then capable of raising children who hang on to their innate authenticity. It's a principle whereby we, on a daily basis, commit to witnessing our programming, witnessing the things that we, throughout the course of our lives, were, taught to believe and understand. We witness those things when they come up, and then we respond to the needs of our children in the present moment, despite that programming, right? So, our child is being loud and rambunctious, right? And what comes up is maybe an annoyed feeling or anxiety from all of the noise. This is something that happens for me, right? Instead of saying, shh, quiet down, we breathe through the feeling and we allow them to have fun and be loud and do what children do. So I mentioned that conscious parenting is about connecting to your authentic self. And the authentic self is who we truly are underneath all of our layers. all of the layers that we've accumulated throughout the course of our lives. And those layers are comprised of the, thoughts and beliefs that were handed down to us by the previous generation. And many of our layers were accumulated throughout childhood. And when our authenticity is buried so deeply beneath all of those layers, the layers themselves become the only place from which we can, parent and live our lives on a daily basis. The authentic self is so deep that, when we're in the present moment, we can't access it. The layers become our functioning state of being. They're what our children become exposed to. They're what drive our interactions with our children. And therefore, it's what we pass down. We're not passing down our authenticity. We're passing down our layers. And the only way to stop that cycle is to rediscover our authenticity. And we are so far gone when it comes to, generation after generation passing down the layers that, what we need to do is take a break, revisit our authentic self, and it's a long journey, and then parent from that authenticity so that we can help our children grow into authentic adults. So you may be asking why a lot of these negative feelings or conditions are like the default. Why is it assumed that, all of us are parenting and living our lives from layers and programming based on fear and anxiety or sadness or, any of those things? And, aren't we doing a good job? Aren't we already good parents? Well, yeah, generally, many of us are doing a decent job and we're generally happy people. But, the layers are unavoidable. You can't go through life without accumulating layers, because that's sort of how the ego protects our soul. It protects us. It identifies danger or whatever it is in certain situations and certain people, and then it puts up these layers to try to protect us. So even if you grew up with, relatively conscious parents or, some relatively fairy tale childhood, the layers always happen because we're always exposed to certain experiences or, unconscious people or, the media, which impact the purity with which we view ourselves and the world around us. And, all of those perceptions, the way we perceive things, the way we perceive ourselves, those things become our layers. So conscious parenting, stopping the cycle that is fueling our society today, starts with all of us adults, rediscovering our authentic selves. And you rediscover your authentic self by embarking on, honestly, it's the journey of a lifetime. You've got to commit to a lifelong journey toward yourself, toward healing, toward peeling back the layers. My journey started, I'd say, about 3 years ago. And, it didn't set out with this sort of grand goal of creating world peace. I just wanted to be a better mom, and I wanted to connect on a deeper level with my son. I was starting to see how my past and how my childhood was impacting my presence and my patience. And I was starting to realize that I was parenting almost completely based on fear. I have a lot of protective layers that are based on fear, for a number of reasons that, I talk about on the blog. And it just, in this moment 3 years ago, I knew that something had to change. And so I read this book, The Conscious Parent by Dr. Shefali, and I highly recommend it. She's got a number of really highly relatable anecdotes, and the way she describes, the concepts of conscious parenting are so accessible. And immediately after reading that book, I knew that it wasn't a matter of, parenting techniques or, the way that certain decisions that I made as a parent. Like the change was going to happen once I decided to heal myself, once I decided to really start to rediscover who I was, honestly, for the first time in my life. I mean, I am 33 years old now. I was 31 years old at the time that I embarked on this journey. And I had gone literally my whole life, like most of us do, functioning from my programming and really having no idea who I was. So there's so much more to talk about when it comes to conscious parenting, and it's not just about world peace, although that is a wonderful grand goal that we can all have for future generation, but it's about connecting on a deeper level with our kids, fostering a lasting relationship with them and allowing them to grow up and blossom into the people they're meant to be, in touch with their authenticity. That makes us better and happier parents. It leads to happier family life, happier, more peaceful homes. And it's all around just a wonderful and beautiful approach to living your life in your, as a woman, as a mom, and or as a man, as a father. It's a noble cause, and I really do think that conscious parenting has got to be our highest calling as humans, because it's what prepares the next generation for happiness, right? Even if you're not a parent, more than likely at one point in your life, you are going to be interacting with youth, right? You're going to be making an impression on, the people who will grow up to be the people of our world. And so it is our responsibility as adults, especially as parents, as caregivers, to embark on this journey, to rediscover ourselves, to heal, to reflect on who we are, so that we can responsibly and consciously raise the future generation. So if you're not sure where to start, I highly recommend The Conscious Parent by Dr. Shefali. It was a complete game changer and eye-opener for me. There's a link down below, both to the blog and to order the book. And then just, commit to discovering yourself, and do what it takes to heal. And, on consciously-mom.com, we will be talking a lot about how to embark on that journey. What are some of the things that you can do to heal yourself? It's all about, it's a lot about meditation. It's about self-love and self-care, taking time out to connect with yourself, to connect with nature, to connect with all that is authentic in the world, to live in the present moment, to enjoy the things that you enjoy. And all of it, it's what I like to call a modern day journey, because we are living in the modern day. As moms, as dads, we have a modern day role, right? To be a mother, to be a father is not the same as it was even 10, 20, 30 years ago. And consciously-mom.com is all about, inspiring you and assisting you along that journey, and coming together as a community so that we may, help each other, not feel alone, and really just journey together towards the best life we can possibly live. We want to step into our light so that we can, raise the next generation to live in their light.